This is from this blue card. As a business person, I could never run my business the same way that government runs theirs from a fiscal perspective. I would not be able to repay my loans. I would have to lay off employees. I may not be able to pay my taxes, and I would probably go out of business. What's your opinion?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
The purpose of the question is that this private business person, they can't run their business the way that government runs theirs. Would you be supportive of altering the way government runs?
I could not agree with you more. I don't know who asked the question, and as having run a small business myself for 11 years, this is something I talk about all the time. And you look at, did any of you see the GAO report from a couple of weeks ago? They come out with the annual report that shows all the waste and duplication in government. It is completely unacceptable. One of the examples I talk about is there's a program for financial literacy. Good thing, right? Helping people understand finances and how it all plays out. There are 56 different government programs for financial literacy spread across 20 different agencies. That's crazy. No business person would ever do that. Every business person knows how hard it is to balance a budget, to pay your employees, to make sure that you can provide benefits. We need to be making, again, as I said in the last answer, we are not making decisions that are smart. We need to look at how we could find the most revenue possible. You also need to look at how we could cut unnecessary costs and waste. And 90 seconds isn't nearly enough time to talk about this, but look, in addition to the waste and duplication, we're not finding the revenue we should. You look at areas like how many bids we have available with the federal government that are still no bid contracts. We need to put those up for bid. If we were to, and also all the unpaid taxes that have already been assessed, if we were to collect a third of the unpaid already assessed taxes owed, if we were to put up for bid a quarter of the no bid contracts, do you know how much money we would shave? We would shave $1 trillion off of the deficit. As a business person, that's the first step that I would take.
Thank you.
So I think the question was if business trying to operate the way the federal government operates, you'd be out of business very soon. And I think the point of the question is businesses have to adopt the budget and then live by the budget. Businesses have to make certain that their expenditures are coming in under budget, their revenues are coming in over budget, so that you can continue to pay your employees. And you can have a little bit of a fund balance or a rainy day fund. It is the most important responsibility of a member of Congress to go to Washington with experience on balancing a budget, on passing a budget on time, and then living within the budget. And the truth is, whether you like the budget or don't like the budget that the House passed this year and last year, you must acknowledge we passed the budget. And without trying to be too partisan about it, the House passes a budget. The Senate hasn't passed the budget. It is the other party. Has not passed a budget in over 1,000 days, over 3 years. So essentially the federal government has been operating on what they call continuing resolutions, which is we're just going to spend the same amount of money that we spent last year without any real plan. So those that have run the House of Representatives have done the right, responsible thing. The process says we pass a budget, then the Senate passes a budget, then it goes to the conference committee, and that's where the compromises work out. But if the Senate refuses to pass a budget, there can be no conference committee and no compromise. That's one of the reasons that I was one of the first co-sponsors of a bill called No Budget, No Pay. No Budget, No Pay says if a member of Congress goes to Washington and doesn't pass a budget resolution in their House within the prescribed period of time, they don't get paid their salary. And if they ultimately pass a budget after the deadline, they don't get paid retroactively. Unfortunately, there are very few members of Congress that signed on to this bill with me, but this is the kind of reform measures you need from your representatives in Washington.
Thank you for the answer to that question. This is the next question from Mr. Fitzpatrick. As a business person, I understand the need to collect taxes. I know that I am at least paying my fair share and perhaps more. I cannot pay more taxes without looking to cut expenses, and that means personnel cuts. How can we grow jobs if we continue to increase our business tax burdens?
How can we grow jobs when we continue to increase our tax burdens? That is exactly what I heard from the businesses throughout Bucks County and Eastern Montgomery County during the time that I've spent with them in this term. As I mentioned earlier, I visited over 100 businesses in 100 days, beginning in May and ending in August. And The message I received from the small and medium-sized business community is, number one, taxes are too high and your tax code is too complicated. Number two, the regulations coming out of Washington are too onerous and too difficult to comply with, and they're not specifically targeted to a specific problem. And number three, healthcare costs are out of control. So what the small business community is telling me is, if you want us to be able to succeed and survive, if you want us to expand and to grow jobs, which is what the federal government needs the small business community to do, you need to deal with high taxes, complicated codes, onerous regulations, and healthcare costs. Unfortunately, the current administration is raising taxes on small business, and my opponent, who wants all the tax rates to go up at the end of this year, that will mean tax increases on individual families in Bucks County, and a tax increase on 1 million small businesses across this country effective January 1 of this year. We need to do what I would say President Bill Clinton wants to do, and I happen to agree with President Clinton in this instance, which is maintain the rates at their current levels, help small businesses grow and expand and create the jobs. So essentially, a pro-growth economic strategy is what we need, is what the small business community is asking for, and the current administration, the Democrat Senate, is heading in a different direction.
Thank you. Congressman, you know it's not true that I don't want to actually raise the tax rates on all families. What I'd like to do is have the Bush tax cuts end for the wealthiest 1 to 2% of America, which, by the way, Americans support by a 2-to-1 margin. And, Congressman, it's my turn. I'm very proud, as I said earlier, to be endorsed by President Clinton, who does not agree with what you said. He may have said it once some years ago. He no longer believes that. He believes that, like I believe, that the Bush tax cuts must end for the wealthiest 1 to 2% of Americans. In addition, Congressman Fitzpatrick said the Ryan budget was the right, responsible thing to do. I would have to fully disagree with that, and it's appropriate in the context of this question as well. Look, we want to make sure that we support all of us. And first of all, by the way, for businesses, first thing I would do, I'm about action, not about words. First thing out the gate, what I would do is put forth a package of bills. Number one, I want to lower the base corporate tax rate for our businesses. Right now, we've got one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world, 35%. That major disincentive to businesses for creating the jobs here. Two, I want to end the loopholes for businesses that send their jobs overseas. We should not be paying moving expenses to ship our jobs overseas. What I would like to do is instead put forth a tax credit to bring the jobs home, give incentives to businesses who do move them back here. Three, I want to reduce the regulations on small businesses. I'm getting to stop. I take the stop sign very seriously, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next question is back to you. We'll start. This will be the last chamber question, and then I'll pass over to the League of Women Voter questions. Obamacare is currently being implemented. We all recollect Congress's assertions that we have to pass the law to see what's in it. We are finally seeing the financial impact. Recently, we've all heard that financially hard-pressed hospitals will be fined up to $125,000 for readmission of Medicare patients. Our business owners will be burdened by the costs unless they were fortunate enough to get an exemption. Why provide an exemption for anyone, including Congress and government workers, if this is the best we can do? Isn't it time to go back to the drawing board and start over?
It's a question that's on everybody's mind. Everybody's talking about Obamacare. And look, I think, first of all, I'll start with this. What we don't want to do, healthcare was one of the, if not the biggest reason for families to declare bankruptcy. We don't want to have a situation where people, our friends and our families and our neighbors, are getting their health care in the emergency room. It's not good for our health. It's not good for moral reasons. And frankly, it's not good for our pocketbooks. When people are getting their health care in the emergency rooms rather than preventative care, we all lose. So, Obamacare is not a perfect bill. I've said that from day one. It is not the bill I would have drawn. My single biggest concern about this bill is that it not cause burdens for individuals or businesses. And we have to watch this very closely and make sure that we put into effect provisions that this is not a burden for any of us. And again, as an employer, I know how hard it is to provide benefits for employees. There's no question. This is my biggest concern about this bill is that we work to fix it. But fix is the key word. The congressman in Congress has voted 33 times with the political charade to repeal this. Look, this is a bill that despite its faults, It eliminates pre-existing condition exclusions. It allows us to cover our kids till they're 26. It provides for critical coverage for preventative care without co-pays and without deductibles. We need to put into effect cost containment measures and make sure we reduce the cost of health care across the board in this country, including making sure it's not a burden for businesses and individuals.
Thank you for that.
Repeal is not the answer.
Thank you for that.
Fix is the answer.